Hello, fairy finders and fairy seekers. Welcome to FaerieQuest and another episode of Real Fairies in Real Photos. This time we're going back to March 10th, 2019, and we're going to Hot Springs Village in Arkansas to a road, just a road, called Desoto. That's where these photographs were taken. We were walking the dog and just walking, taking photos. But you'll find that there are a lot of fairies and maybe a few surprises along the way. So as always, grab that magic wand and zap that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and consider supporting this channel by clicking on the link in the description box below. Stay tuned. We have a cutie here with green tinged mop-like hair. We can see her face quite clearly with both eyes and her nose. She is wearing a brown outfit and we can see one leg and foot. She appears to be looking down at her foot and not at us. Another fairy being with wispy greenish blue hair. This fairy was photographed crawling under the branch, or she just decided to lie down as flat as possible when she heard us coming. We can clearly see her flesh-colored face with two large black eyes and a nose. I apologize for the blur of this fairy, but as you can see from the photo on the left, he is very small. His blending is quite good, but he is just a bit darker than the gray around him. We can see his pointed hat and pointed ear. We can also see his flesh-colored face with nose and both dark eyes. His arm is moving across his little body, which puts his hand beneath the right eye as we look at him. The flesh-colored part that I have labeled foot may or may not be a foot and may or may not be part of him. I just can't be sure. There is no missing this little fairy standing on a rock by the tree. He is small enough that enlarging him creates blur. He's almost easier to see in the large photo to the left. He is quite smartly dressed with a white collar and blue vest or shirt, but he is still barefooted. We can easily see his flesh-colored face with one eye, the other is hidden by a branch, his nose, and part of his smile. I believe he is also holding a stick. Remembering that these fairy beings can create themselves out of whatever is around them, this one chose to make himself nearly invisible, blending in with the objects around him. We can, however, see his hat, his face in profile with a nose and one eye, and we can see the upper portion of his back and one shoulder. What really stands out is his hand, including the fingers, that we can see very clearly. So the impression here is that this fairy woman lives in an underground area beneath the log. She has just popped her head out to reach for something by the rock. We can see her black hat and her grayish curly hair under the hat. We see her face in profile, but see both eyelids, her nose, and her mouth and cheek very clearly. You need to look closely for her arm and hand as they are much smaller, though in the right proportion with the rest of her. The fairy here has gone into freeze mode, realizing she might be in danger. We can see her hat held on by a string around her neck flipped to the back of her head. This reveals her blondish brown curly hair. We can see her face in profile with both eyes, her nose, and her cheek. Her arms show too, but she has blended them with the leaves, so they look huge. She was definitely quick to think because she blends quite well. Now that the parts of this fairy have been pointed out, You may see her more clearly in the photo to the left, as enlarging her created blur. We can see she is next to the large log. She is looking down at the log, and her arm is bent at the elbow and wrist so that her hand is going down toward the log, almost as though she is tracing a line on the log or poking her finger in a small hole. She has reddish hair, and we can see one eye and her nose here. Here we have 3 fairy beings. The one on the left is an animal that looks a bit like a monkey. The arrow is pointed at his feet, but we can see 2 eyes, nose, mouth, and both ears. The middle fairy has red hair, and we can see his face in profile. All that we can see is his head, as I believe he is leaned up against the log. The one on the right is a bigger fellow. We can see his head as well. We see one eye, his hooked nose, and what appears to be a mustache. This one is difficult to miss, and it was large enough that it didn't blur too much upon enlarging. We have here either a baby dragon or a really large snake. I'm going to opt for the dragon because of the eyes. The eyes of a snake are kind of lifeless, like a shark's eyes, but these eyes have life to them. We can also see half of its muzzle or snout with one nostril. Pretty cute, I think. I can't be sure this is a little hut, but it certainly looks to have a squarish build, a roof, and a door. You can be certain if I had seen this while taking pictures, I would have found a way to look at it closer, but I did not see it until I began going through the photos. It's just a little place. I wonder who lives there.